So this will be Google Docs and research. It should be pretty quick. Okay. Okay. We'll start with Google Doc tips. I think these are actually really useful, and are sort of underrated because a lot of people use Word. And I think Google Docs can be just as powerful. And the benefit is it's free, so you don't have to pay for Word or have to pirate it. Okay. So debaters read cards for your cases, and it's really important that you have a good formatted card because it just looks better, and it looks nicer. And a lot of people struggle with cutting cards using Google Docs because um, it's sort of confusing. So after using Google Docs for 2 years, I've found some cool tricks to make cutting cards a whole lot easier. The trick here is the Docs hotkey extension. I've linked it in the slideshow, and make sure you download it. And it's really powerful because it allows you to keybind all of your keys so you can cut the cards a lot faster. Uh, so yeah, in order, so you just install the extension and then you set it up like this. And then in your extensions, you can set the keybinds to what, like to how you, like whatever keybinds you want to have. So really quickly, I can show you what cutting a card would look like with that. So let's say you're cutting an article about like just the economic state of Britain. What you would do is like, for example, this article, and everyone can see this part too, right? Um, can everyone see the BBC article? Okay, cool. So basically, yeah, so to cut a card, you're going to copy and paste the article into the doc. And then using your keybinds, so the way I have my keybinds set up are like this. So I have shrink, I have cut, and I have highlight. And it's really intuitive to set it up. And I think Doc's hotkey explains how you set it up. But basically, you just download the extension. It's a very simple process. And you set it up like this. And then you can go to your extensions and set up the keybinds. So what I can do is I can press Control N, which is my keybind to make the text smaller. And I hit Control Shift V to copy and paste the whole text like that. And then I can use my keybinds to do like control space. I have is increase um like this. What is GDP and how has it worked out? GDP is falling means the economy is shrinking. It is known as a recession. Can lead to this. Um, okay. Yeah. So then what I do now is now that I've increased the text of everything that I think is important to the card, does that make sense to everyone? I can go in and bold the important words. So the economy by 0.1%, GDP, economy is shrinking, recession, freeze job and losses. Okay. Oops. Like that. And that just control B, which is just bolding it. Next, I can highlight. And the way I've set up my highlighting is, hold up, is by doing, you just do highlight and action green. And it's Alt Z for me. So I can go in and highlight, but just using my keybinds. So I can just do Alt Z. I highlighted the parts that I want to read. Do you see how that works? So, and using these keybinds, it makes it a lot faster. Instead of going in and like increasing the size and then underlining, I can just do control space and it does it a lot faster for me. And you can obviously change how you want your keybinds to be set up, but this is what works for me. I like control space for cutting, control N for shrinking, and Alt Z for highlighting. Okay. The next part of a card is your site. So again, you have to download another extension. This one is called Site Creator. It's very like everyone, pretty much every debater has it. And in your site creator, you want to set it up like this. So I can show you what that looks like. You go to site creator, which this is just when you download it and install it. You can go to options, and then in custom, this is how you set up your site. And I have what that looks like right there. So what that means in this context is I can go to this article and you see how the site creator creates the site down here. I can do Control Alt C, which copies the site, and then I can go to the document and I can paste in the site there. And this is the site. Sometimes site creator messes it up. So yeah, I have to make sure all the relevant information is in there. So you want the author. In this case, I don't think it has an author, so you can just say the BBC. But it has the date for you, the name of the article, the link for the article, and who is cutting this card. And then we want to make sure you have author quals for this. It just there's no author, so you don't really need author qualifications. You can just say global newspaper. But for example, uh, for this one, you can see that the author qual is Richard Corbett is a former Labor MVP, blah 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 blah. And this just tells you who this author is and their qualifications. And see, you have the author last name and the year it was published, and that. So that's what a standard card looks like, and that's how you cut it. Again, on Google Docs, like people think it's very fussy, but it's not. You just have to create the correct keybinds, and then you just copy the site, and it's very fast. And then you want to put a tag. So again, I use my keybinds to make this heading 4. I can say UK economy econ is down now. And then this is my evidence for that. Okay. Formatting now. Um, Here I have the general formatting. This is sort of like the pretentious like formatting tricks that are like what people have for a lot of things. Mm. This is like your heading 1, so this could be like contention 1, or most people do like the 1NC, right? So you want to make sure that this is set as your default style. That means in any document you can go and you see how it's set as my default style. So I could set this as uh the 1AC economy argument, and then you have your evidence. Okay. Does that make sense to everyone? Is everyone following? How do you create the box thing around the heading? Okay. Um, to create the box thing, you literally just have to go and hit save as my default styles, and then and anywhere you go, you can go to like any new document, and then just go to heading 1, and it'll create the box for you. Does that make sense? How do I create the style? To create the style, just go to this document that I put in the slideshow, and then go to heading 1, save as my default style, and that should give you that box stuff. Someone asked, is DebateX also good? Um, I don't think it is as good as just drinking it the first time and then just using the keybinds to make it uh like just do it. It's a lot faster. Yeah. So it might take time to sort of set up the keybinds, but you just go here and then just download it and then you can set up all the things. It's really easy to use and it saves you a lot of time. Do we have to use that specific we have my own. Um, I would say I personally prefer this style. And it's generally what like everyone on the national circuit will be using this style because it's the easiest to read. But yeah, if you have your own style, it's perfectly fine. I would say that there's some strategic advantages to this. The main thing is just like you can see in this outline that if you have these set as heading twos and then have your tags that is heading one, then it's easier to go down and like find your pieces of evidence. Okay. Does anyone have any more questions on this part? Okay. And yeah, formatting, it's because it looks nice, it's easy to read, and it's the general norm. So yeah, it just makes your documents look pretty. All right, the next thing I'm gonna talk about is just staying organized in the round through this flowing method that my school uses. It's sort of hard to understand without doing it yourself, but so I would suggest practicing with this if you have any practice rounds coming up. All right, the first thing you do is you create a pre-flow for your arguments. So, like, yeah. So in this example, if I'm reading an argument about the economy, my pre-flow looks like this, and this is all online. You're typing this on your computer. The British economy is down. Like, do you see how I've listed it as bullet points? And this is my argument. So if I listed it here, um, like if I was making a flow, I would go our side, and then my argument is the economy. This, yes. Okay. So this is before you do the round. So just so you have an understanding of your case, or like you don't have to float anymore before. And a tip is to make sure you make keybinds for your for coloring for both colors because you want to do one side in one color and the other side another color. So I would do my side in black and then have my opponent's side in red. That way, it's a lot faster to switch between. And again, the way you to make these keybinds is that you go to the Docs hotkey, download it, and you can make as many keybinds as you want, and they show up here. Like I have black, it just Control O and makes the color black. Okay. Okay. Now, when your opponent reads their case, the first speaker, so in the first speaker, like the person who's going to read summary and constructive, will be flowing the opposite side's speech. So what does that look like in round? You want to make a header called their side or whatever you want to call it. And the first speaker will be flowing it like this. Like D1 is terrorism. And then be writing the reasons like terrorism, terror down right now. And you want to be using shorthand so it's a lot faster. Next, the second speaker will be writing responses to this first speaker. So while this person is reading terrorism's down right now, app changes, whatever. The second speaker will be writing responses as the first speaker speaks. You can say, no, our evidence post-dates, terror. Okay. So the advantage of this is one, the first speaker or the second speaker doesn't have to flow the speech, but instead can focus all of their brain power on just thinking of responses. And also in a tech round, you'll be sending evidence. So you can write like your evidence in a doc here, and this is just for analytics or front lines. So yeah, You can just be typing as many responses as you think of. This is especially important during a lay round because you can just, when you're giving a speech, it's very clear what you're like what all your responses are. You don't have to look at your paper. It's very easy. And the second advantage is that while this all is done, like, well, this all is done, and let's say you don't have enough responses, while you're reading your speech, your partner could be adding responses as you talk. So then you have more responses, even if like you didn't know them, you can just read them off your computer. So you and your partner can be sort of synced in that regard. Yeah. So this is sort of an example of this. Like one person reads politics, and then the second speaker will be reading responses to the politics argument, like that. And it's written in shorthand, so it's a lot simpler. Okay. Next, when the person frontlines it. So let's say the next person comes up and says, no, your evidence is bad. Whoever is not giving the next speech will be writing this. So then you can write a response to that. And it sort of just keeps going. Like C said, no, our evidence post dates. So basically, if you're not going to give a speech, then you're going to be flowing and your partner will be writing out responses to that. So it looks sort of like this. Someone just asked, would a table be easier for organization? Can you clarify that question, Zach? Oh, like inserting a table like this, like that. Um, I think, I mean, you can play around whatever works for you. I think this is the fastest just because you can add infinite responses without having to like waste time typing. Because you can just make sure the key thing is that you indent it here. So you have one dot and then your response. That means it can keep indenting like that. Okay. Yeah. So then the back half. This is where this method is like becomes really good because in the back half, it's gonna your flow could look like this, right? You'll have your argument, but you'll have a pre-written extension for your argument. So that means when you come up to the judge, you can just read this, right? And it sounds, you can make it as persuasive as you want, but this is your argument. So you can just copy and paste that in. And because it's online, you can just read off your computer. Obviously, like looking up and facing the judge, but whatever. But then, because you have this pre-flow right here, you can highlight all the responses that they extended on your case and respond to them here. So let's say they read a bunch of more responses, but in their last speech, they didn't extend them. So your partner could just highlight the ones that you want him to respond to. So you can extend this argument and then go down and look at the responses. So if I was reading the economy argument, I'd read the extension, then they'd say they have one response, which is that regulations make the economy worse. And then I have my response here. This is incredibly efficient, especially for the second or for the summary, because now it just like streamlines everything and both partners can be on the same page. And it is incredibly helpful for weighing. The weighing is just why your argument's more important than the others. So what I recommend is that while the second speaker is in crossfire, your your partner will be typing out the weighing and copy and pasting your extension. So then you can just read the weighing off the document and then you're already ahead. And then your partner could also help with weighing. So basically, both partners collaborate on this to make this look like as best as it can. Like you'll have the best responses and then the best weighing. And then the second speaker could also just be highlighting defense. Like, I want you to extend this response. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. I know this is like a little confusing, but trust me, like if you practice it a couple times, it gets really easy. And especially if you and your partner are in sync, then you can be typing at the same time and you'll like be compiling like a thing a lot faster. And it makes sure like if your partner is about to forget to say something, you could go to where their cursor is and then just type in like all caps, like extend whatever, right? If they're about to forget it. And then they'll be reading it off the doc. Okay. So here's an example flow. I just have it here. So this is after, this is like at the end of the round. So we have the weighing at the top, and the stuff highlighted is the stuff that it was extended. So probability weighing, their response to the probability weighing, and then the backline to it, and then their weighing, and our response to that. So this is the weighing sheet, and then this is the extensions. And these are what I highlighted are the stuff that I went for in final focus, but everything was read in summary. So also when you're giving summary, you can just um like make sure for final, you don't have to change anything. You can just re-highlight stuff. So you just go for the most important stuff. So this was the extension. And then these were the responses to our case that was highlighted. And then this is just like what uh, the whole case looked like. But this didn't matter because this was not extended in round. And then on their case, I've highlighted what defense was gone for. Does this make sense to everyone? Does anyone have any questions on this? I know it's sort of confusing, but and they didn't extend this argument. But you see, like these are my responses. And importantly, like if you're reading evidence, have the first speaker flow the evidence so it's just on the flow. So I read evidence for this, but my partner wrote down the tags. Okay, so to clarify who what's right, I'll just go over this here. Okay, so do you have your pre-flow? This is the pre-flow, like econ up, uh, dex, econ, whatever. So this is your pre-flow. This is written before round. Then, when your opponent reads case, when your opponent reads case, the first speaker will flow this. So they'll be flowing. While the first speaker is flowing, the second speaker will write responses. Then, when the opponents respond, the second speaker writes what they said to that. Yeah. And then the first speaker will put the extension and then like highlight whatever like responses, highlight whatever responses the person said. Extension, response, and then the other person will highlight that. And make sure you write weighing too. So the ideal summary should be extension, then going for the responding to the defense that your opponent or your partner highlighted for you, reading weighing, and then going to their side and going responding to the stuff they said there. And this all sounds complicated, but basically think about it like this. If I'm not speaking, then if I'm not about to speak, then I'm writing, basically. How would you recommend creating huge block files? We'll get to block files on the research part of the lecture. Okay. I think that's all flowing. So the benefits of this is one, it's fast, and you and your partner are on the same page. And you can write up really pretty rhetoric. And like for me and like my school in general, this has definitely worked for us. Like for example, when my team switched to using this method, uh, one team finaled Harvard and the other team won Stanford using this method after like being mediocre in competing. So it definitely increased our six like results a lot because we were able to be streamlined and more efficient. And I'm not going to show this right now, but this is an example of these two using the method. You can't really see them, but it just like they're typing a lot. So you can see like it's very efficient. Okay. Now we'll talk about research. Does anyone have questions in that section? No questions? Okay. We'll talk about research. I think research is pretty intuitive. The quick tips I have that is one, just obviously you have to spend a lot of time researching, or the more time you spend researching, the better your research will be and the better at debate you will be because you understand the topic better. My second tip is form a prep group. So find people that can prep with you. So it's not just all your burden. And the third tip is make sure you're reading entire articles, right? You're not just skimming, but you're reading the entire article because sometimes one paragraph of the entire article will be saying what you want it to say. Those are pretty obvious questions or obvious tips, but for more specific stuff, I have this. So places for inspiration. So one, Logos. I don't know how many of you know this, but basically this is a search engine for debate. So if I'm reading something about Brexit, I can just type in Brexit and then it gives you cards about the topic. And you can say something like China, US war. And then it gives you cards that people have cut that are about the topic. That's one place to start. And the second is the Open Evidence Project. You can just go through. This has a bunch of evidence that people have read. Like these are impact turns. Um, like people read stuff about arms sales. There's K's in here if you want to read about that. It just has a bunch of evidence and it's pretty good. Especially if you're looking for like niche stuff, it's probably there. The third place is JSTOR. This is for more like historical articles, and I think you have to make an account, but the evidence from here is usually pretty good. Yeah, he says, I love open case lists. Yeah, just don't become too reliant on this. You still need to actually read the evidence, make sure you know what it's saying, because you don't want to get caught in a situation where you don't know what you're saying. And then the second one is the NDTC to college stuff. So you can just go to any of these years, and most of the time, these teams will have pretty good evidence, and you can see the round reports, like what they go for. Like if you're going for something about like AI, you can read some of their cases, and they normally have pretty good evidence and they're pretty long files, so they'll probably have a lot of good warrants. And yeah, topics tend to be similar. Like for example, this is an economics topic, or more broadly, it's about European policy. So there's been a couple of topics already about European policy. So there's a lot of overlap between topics, so you can sort of look there first if you're stuck with ideas. And then there's a lot of cool impacts. So this is just an impact file, and there's a bunch of different impacts. So if you find a way that you can find something about how there's a lack of food in Britain, affirming means more food, food wars cause extinction, that could be an argument, right? And then you have like these are just good places to get you started, right? Like, is there more soil erosion happening because of Brexit or something like that? Or are bees dying out because of Brexit? All these are good ways to get started. Okay, someone has a question. It's Google and Semantic Scholar good? I think, are you talking about Google Scholar too? I've never used Semantic Scholar, but Google Scholar is definitely good. Honestly, um, yeah, it should be fine. Uh, like I don't think like yeah, you just want to Google things about the topic. You could look up like you just like just search up Brexit and just look at the top stuff or like uh just the more specific your search prompts, the better. Also, using ChatGPT is pretty good sometimes. I don't know if this will load, but yeah, just like ChatGPT, give me some ideas, but don't just become too reliant. Like, These are some like good stepping stones from this, but don't become too reliant on that, right? Like once you find these arguments, you can research from there and have ChatGPT explain things. Okay. Um, my final tip is where did the thing go? For lay debate. Lay debate is different than technical debate. For a lay debate, you need to have convincing. You're thinking about convincing someone. That means finding the realist evidence, the realist links, and the real impact. Your evidence should be credible and make sense, and you should be able to paraphrase your evidence. What that means is that you should read a lot about the topic and find the most true arguments, right? So, for example, there's a topic about nuclear energy, or I can just, yeah, for the topic of, for this topic, right? You want to find a lot of evidence that's very believable, but you also want to have believable impacts. Like, for example, we're not going to say that Brexit's going to cause extinction, but rather that Brexit caused 15,000 deaths. Like you don't want to sound outlandish, but you also want to sound, like it's sort of a big deal. So you want to find evidence that says that. And you should also play to your judge's biases. Like for the AI topic, we were reading arguments about how we should break down, or AI breaks down the language barrier. And because a lot of judges don't speak English as their first language, this is very relatable to judges. So it makes them more inclined to vote for you. You want to look through that. Perplexity AI is good for finding evidence too. To answer your question about block files, um, this is especially useful for you want to have a prep group for this because it's a lot of prep to get done. But basically, so this is our block file for the nuclear energy topic. So this is the way we have it set up. We have the A2F. And basically, you just want to find blocks to every single part of their argument. Like for the data centers, normally you want your best responses to be first in the block file and then them in order. And you want to have, again, good evidence ethics and tags about what your evidence says. And a good way to do this is um, like when people start disclosing for this topic, just downloading the cases and finding as many holes as you can and prepping it out. That makes sense? Or do you have any further questions? Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, I think that's basically the end of the lecture. Um, yeah, no more questions.